everyone. My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today we're going to be talking about aftercare. In particular, what my aftercare kit looks like, how you can build one for yourself, and what you want to include in it based on the scenes that you're doing, the types of play that you're engaging in, and generally what you want to get from your aftercare. So before we get into it, I do want to say this is an older video concept I have done before, and it's been years, and I just have naturally years more experience at doing this, figuring out what works, what doesn't, figuring out which things on the internet are actually worth it or not, and just generally how to do it all a lot better than I did before. So we are revisiting it, and if you're not yet familiar with what aftercare is, I do have some other videos where I go over it, but for the sake of being on the same page right now, essentially aftercare is the care you do after a BDSM scene. And you can do this outside of BDSM as well, but it is something that we very strongly believe in the general kink community. Now, not everyone does aftercare. It is not a requirement by any means, and I would say that even doing no aftercare is still aftercare, because as long as you are consciously choosing to do it, and that is what helps you go from BDSM scene time into everyday life, cool. That's all that really needs to happen at the bare bones of it. But we do aftercare for a lot of reasons when it's more active in nature. I would say the primary reason is to take care of any physical or emotional needs that came up as part of doing the scene. It can help you recalibrate and go from scene mode into everyday life mode, so you can go home safe or go to work the next day basically feeling the same as you would any other work day. It can also help you connect with your partner again after a scene, especially if you've done any sort of really intense role play, and it just is generally good for warding off some of the longer term negative side effects that can happen later after you do a scene. Again, videos I've done before talking about all of this in more detail, but for my aftercare kit, what I want to do is talk about why I use this, what is in here. First of all, I want to say I love a backpack. Backpacks are so good. You can keep everything you need in here. If you're just a bottom and you're not bringing your own stuff with you in terms of toys to an event space, a backpack is a really good idea. Your phone can be in here, your keys, anything you need all fits in this. This is such a lifesaver. Even like one of those really cheap like drawstring backpacks, those are a really good idea to store your aftercare stuff in. If you are using a bigger toy bag, I would recommend having a separate smaller bag in that with your aftercare stuff in it, because if you're like me and you bring 50 different toys to one event, it can take a lot of digging to get to what you actually need. And sometimes you want that really quick thing. You don't want to have to dig for it, and having a separate bag is a good way to go. But essentially, what I have in here are all my like must-haves that I take with me that I think are very, very good to have. And the first thing that I have in here is, oh, spoiler alert for one other thing, is a water bottle. This is a kid-sized Camelback water bottle. It's reusable. I love these because water is the one thing that if you don't know what else to do, top, bottom, whatever your aftercare needs are, water is a really good place to start, because chances are if you've been scening for an hour, 2 hours, I guess unless you're doing a waterboarding scene or you're doing a drinking water sports thing, I guess there's possibilities. In any case, you probably haven't consumed liquids in a while during your scene, so having water is a really good thing to start with. And I actually have some tips for making this even better we'll talk about a little bit later on. But aftercare water, so good. And sometimes you will be at a venue where they will have like LaCroix or sodas or waters. Those are great. However, in my experience, they get picked over very quickly. You cannot count on them, so always be prepared and bring your own. So I'm just gonna like surprise myself with what I grab in here? Okay, and this is a good one for the next one because you guys already kind of saw this one a little bit. So one of the common things you will see across the board in aftercare recommendations is having a snack, having chocolate, having a sweet. And there is something to be said for a little bit of a sugar rush after having an intense scene. It can elevate your mood, especially if you did more like emotional sadomasochism or your scene was just really heavy for some reason. Having chocolate is really good. Now, I pick very particular things for my aftercare kit on purpose. One, I really like having individually wrapped things. I don't like the waste from it, but it keeps everything nice and self-contained. Some dungeons will not allow you to bring in outside food unless it is wrapped like this, so keep that in mind as well if you're playing somewhere out in public. I like these. These are the Unreal peanut butter cups, and mostly one because I'm vegan, and also because I think it's good in general to have things that anyone can have, right? Having things that, in this case, what I have is vegan, gluten-free, and I also have a low sugar like stevia option that's not made with real sugar. So that means the most number of people can probably have it. Now, nut allergies obviously cannot have the peanut butter cups, but I do have some caramels. I have some hard candies as well in case myself, a friend, my top I'm playing with, whoever, they can also partake if they want to, because when you go to a dungeon, there will, I would say 75% of the time, there will be snacks, but it's gonna be trail mix, pretzels, maybe fruit snacks, goldfish, again, apple juice, some sodas, LaCroix, that kind of a thing, and they get picked over very quickly. And so if you want to make sure you get the good stuff, bring your own with you. And I basically have a little grab bag that I take with me of what my favorites are, and it's a nice little thing to have. Now, I did mention ways to improve the water experience, and I really like these, and I will show you guys them up close. These are some Ultima, I've mentioned these before, and these are electrolyte packets. And these are really good because they have a good mix of electrolyte sources in them. They're not just pure sodium. I think they have a pretty good flavor to them. You don't have to mix them with warm water in order for them to work well. And they have a relatively high amount of magnesium in them, which is good for muscle relaxation after a scene. And if you're like me, you don't really drink soda or fizzy things, this is a good option to have because some of them are also fizzy. And I think that having some electrolytes after a long or an intense scene is a good way to go. Of course, you could also bring a small bottle of Gatorade or something instead, but I prefer these personally. Now, one other thing I want to mention for the sweets part of the kit is if you're going to be doing any kind of suspension, bondage, if you find you're prone to dizziness, nausea, anything like that, I would recommend having some ginger chews. It seems like it shouldn't work, but I have used these during dance classes before and they work pretty well. So having a ginger chew or like a hard ginger candy can be a good option to have as well. Now, there's one other snack thing in here that I do want to bring up that's separate from the sweets, and that would be a protein bar. This is the most overlooked thing, I think, in aftercare kits because everyone focuses on the sweets, right? Because the picture that a lot of people have of aftercare online is like, ooh woo, super sweet, being at home, cuddling in a onesie, watching a Disney movie, eating chocolate ice cream, and like that's what aftercare is. And if that's your aftercare, great, awesome, do it. However, I think there is something that is valuable about protein after, for example, a long impact play scene, both for the top and for the bottom, because tops and bottoms can both need and want aftercare. I really like these Misfit protein bars, or Misfits, I suppose. They're from the UK, so if you're in the UK, they're really easy to get. I think you get them at Sainsbury's, I want to say. I've probably just said that wrong and offended an entire island of people, but these are really good. Any kind of protein bar you like is a great option. If you don't like protein bars, I think individually packaged jerky snacks are really good as well. I have one that I like, but the reason I don't bring it to events is because it's actually got like a stickiness on the surface, and I don't want little like jerky molecules getting all over like my blanket or equipment or whatever. So I just have that one at home, but for traveling, I really like a good protein bar, and trust me, it can actually be a lot better than having jelly beans or chocolate or something after a scene. Getting that protein boost can be so good. So protein bars or some kind of protein focused snack. It could be edamame, whatever you like, something you can bring with you. Good to have around, highly recommend. Okay, so moving on from snacks and things that we can eat, I want to talk about things that we can use on our bodies, because that's really popular. And one very popular option is aloe vera cream. And everyone loves aloe vera cream and after sun stuff and aloe vera gel. And that's all great. Arnica's also very popular with people too, because it supposedly does have properties that help with bruises and wound healing, and aloe vera is very topically soothing on the skin. But I think I have something that's even better than that, and it's, I guess, I don't know if you call this a cosmeceutical or just a skincare thing or what. And this one actually I got not for kink at all, but for a skincare reason, and I thought I could kinkify this. Now this product is by Elta MD. If you are on skincare YouTube at all, this is probably something that you recognize the name of. They have a lot of sunscreens that are very popular and can widely be found in dermatology offices, but they also make a laser enzyme gel that is meant to be used after laser procedures. And I thought, all right, this is basically, to me, a very similar product as aloe vera gel, but I think with some added benefits. Now, I would recommend this in particular if you do impact play that is very light and stingy. I use it after things like, for example, electroplay, or anything involving heat like fire play, cupping, wax play as well. This does a really good job of soothing and cooling down the skin. It has very simple ingredients in it for the most part. However, I will say, if you want to get this, because this was not obvious to me when I purchased it, it has two ingredients in it. It has kiwi fruit extract and it has bromelain in it, which is from pineapple. And you might be thinking, why would I want that? Isn't that a bad idea? Because that actually is what a lot of enzyme face masks are made out of. And apparently, according to their research, having small amounts of bromelain or kiwi fruit or similar tropical fruit extracts in something like this actually helps promote wound healing, which is very interesting. I'm not a dermatologist, so I don't know about the actual science behind that, but that is something that they have included on their website about this product, and I think it is really good to have actually in the fridge if you're playing at home or you do your aftercare at home. Put this in the fridge. It is super cooling. It's really wonderful. I have used this many, many, many times, and a really small bottle is what, like $8 or $9? So it's basically the same price as what you would be paying for if you got regular aloe vera gel from the store, and it's way better, and I love it. It's so good. But if you are doing more intense scenes, you're not just doing more superficial, stingy type stuff, like maybe like wooden paddles or caning, and you're really getting into more deep bruise territory, not so much welts, this is where my next aftercare kit item comes in. This is MSM and magnesium cream. You can get this at farmers markets, you can get this on Etsy, and the reason why I like this for aftercare is because, as I've already mentioned, magnesium can be very good for muscle relaxation, and actually it's used for people that have restless legs. I find the consistency of this, it's like a pretty, I would say almost a puddingy texture, but it takes a while to rub into the skin. So if you like massage after you do a scene, this is a really good beneficial thing to do it with. I wouldn't necessarily say you need this brand or this product, but just any kind of magnesium lotion or cream would just be perfectly suitable and fine for this reason. I really like this. I do think it helps. I use it when I go to the gym. I use it for dance classes. I use this thing all the dang time, and I do think it actually really does help with muscle relaxation and just not getting super stiff after a scene. A lot of people assume they need like Tylenol or something for their aftercare kit. And I can say after years of experience, I have never noticed any benefit from that. I don't use it anymore because the type of pain you typically have during a scene or after a scene, it's not really the kind of pain that something like acetaminophen would be used for. It typically is more, you get stiff, you get sore, like it feels like you either got hit by a truck, you did a super heavy workout, that kind of a pain and experience. So I find something that's more of a cream with a massage is much better than taking something like Tylenol. Now, of course, your mileage, your body will vary. You will figure out what works best for you, but that is what I personally enjoy. Now, one more thing that's in the same category that I like, I've mentioned before, and every time I bring it out, I'm like, YouTube's gonna demonetize me. So this is a 1-to-1 CBD balm. I have found it works very well at what it's supposed to do. It's sort of like icy hot, but extra. Keep in mind though, if you get this, it is basically cocoa butter, some menthol, and oil added to it. So it's really not good for massage purposes if you want to be able to luxuriate in that, but it is effective and I do recommend it on that front if you can find this where you live or something similar to it. Now, I do have 2 more items I want to show you from my kit, and then 2 things that actually don't fit inside of it. So my final 2 suggestions for Aftercare are both technology-based options. And the first one, I actually got these for Christmas. These are Google Pods. I think that's Google Pod. I actually don't know because they're not called AirPods because that's Apple. But Google earbuds or pods, these are really great. And the reason why I like these is because they have a really amazing noise cancellation system built into them, and they are very nice to have if you're like me. You get overwhelmed by sounds. Like when I get into a scene, I like the rhythm of the music, but typically after a while that very much fades into the background and I don't really pay attention to the music anymore. And so when you're in Aftercare after a scene and you're getting back to reality and you're hearing the music and you're hearing the screaming and the chatter, that can be very overwhelming. And I like these, however, they are very expensive. I would look at, I believe they're called the Loop earbuds. You can get them on Amazon, and I think they start at maybe $25, $35, and they are really great at just noise cancellation. These obviously you can use for all other earbud purposes, but just for noise cancellation, loops can be a good option too, and they are very flush with your ear. These ones do stick out quite a bit, so if you want to lay down, they're not good for that. Usually what I have to do is I take one out, and then on the side I'm laying on, I don't have anything in my ear and I only have it on the other ear, which obviously doesn't really work nearly as well. But those ones are more flush to being in your ear, and they don't like hurt and compress against the side of your face or against your ear as much as these more like heavy duty earpod style would. So I like those if you're somebody like me who wants to maybe have a little bit less of an abrupt intense experience of sound immediately after a scene, because sometimes you have somebody next to you that is just going to town and they're screaming so loudly and you're trying to be off in like la la spacey land, and it just isn't very compatible with that, and you both want to be able to be there and get what you want out of your respective BDSM experiences, and noise canceling devices are a great way to do that. Now, my final thing isn't even really an Aftercare thing. It's more of a you should have this if you're going to a dungeon thing. So I recommend having some kind of non-phone watch. I have a digital watch here. Analog works great, whatever you want to use. The reason why I like these is because when you are doing a scene, it is very easy to lose track of time. And a lot of dungeons are not great about having clocks, analog, digital, or otherwise, and they also typically will not allow you to have your phone out unless you're in a very particular area. So, knowing that, how do we keep track of what time it is? A watch. And this is really easy to just wear during any scene you're doing, or to keep it on hand, or to use it during aftercare. You can use it as a way to recalibrate, getting back in touch with where you're at, what time it is. You can set a timer on this if you want to go off when the scene is supposed to end, so you're not like rushing through your aftercare because, ooh, whoops, our scene was supposed to be over at 12 and it's 12:30, so now we don't have time to do aftercare. This can be a really good tool for that when you are in a dungeon that does not allow you to use a phone and doesn't really have any other good way to tell time. Now, two things I want to talk about that are not in my kit, but that I still recommend using or bringing something like it is, number one, going back to my old video, this is more for home care, but I really like these. This is like a heatable llama thing, and essentially it's a heating pack that looks like and is a stuffed animal. And I love this for being able to have a place to rest my head and snuggle with and just have something warm to hold. However, I don't bring this out to dungeons because you need a microwave, and I have not been to a dungeon that has a microwave in probably 6 or 7 years at this point. They're not really that common. This is really good for having at home. If you're playing at home or doing aftercare at home, these are really wonderful, nice to have, or just like some kind of regular heating pad, especially again, you're doing more intense thuddy type impact play or bondage, or you just want something nice and warm and fuzzy. These are great. Now, if you do want to have something to bring to a dungeon, I really recommend having some kind of blanket. Now, this is a really wonderful quilt that I have. I love putting this over furniture and then being able to wrap up in it as soon as I'm done. Really great thing. I have a lot of memories now associated with this quilt, which is really lovely. And I like having some kind of blanket, or having a big hoodie or a cape or a big onesie or like a big fleece snuggie or something. Like, have something to wear that will keep you warm, because one, after a scene is over, it is very common for me personally and people in general to feel cold after a scene. Having a good way to stay warm with a blanket or jacket, good way to go. And also because it's a huge pain in the butt to have to put all your clothes back on, and sometimes you want to not be naked, but also you want to be warm, and so the in-between thing is a big old cape or a blanket. Really good for that purpose as well, and it's good to snuggle in, and blankets are great, and you really shouldn't overlook them. A lot of people like just don't bring them, and then when they get to a party, they're like, oh, I have to have my own sheet, and they don't have one, and like then they can't use the furniture the way they plan to because they don't have a cover for it. And it's good to have a blanket, some kind of cover to bring with you. And in general, having something to keep you warm is also good, because when you're in a dungeon, it's very hard to make a temperature that everyone will enjoy being at, both during play, before play, after play. It's probably going to be a different temperature at the start of the event versus the end of the event. Like, it's a crapshoot. So I always recommend wearing layers, bringing a blanket, because you never know if you're going to be overheated or too cold. I am pretty much always too cold. I don't think I've ever done a scene and then been like, oh my god, I'm so overheated. But maybe if I did more topping, I'd have that experience. So bring layers, bring something to wear, and bring like maybe even a comfortable change of clothes. Or, especially if you're doing bondage, I recommend having warm fuzzy socks, because a lot of people find that they lose a lot of their heat through both their head and their feet, and just having on warm fuzzy socks can do a lot, even when you're otherwise like completely naked after a scene. So those are my personal recommendations for an aftercare kit, as well as some ideas for what to bring if you are doing other types of scenes, other activities. I would love to know what you all think about this one in a comment down below. What do you find really helps you out for aftercare in an aftercare kit? What do you bring with you? Is it totally different from me? Is it the same stuff? And especially if you were someone that thought they knew what they needed for aftercare at the beginning of their kink journey, and now a couple of months or years into it, you do something totally different. What do you do different? I would love to know all your ideas, thoughts, comments, opinions, anything else down below in a comment, and also other ideas that you want to see with aftercare, anything I didn't cover, anything you want me to talk more about. Please let me know that down below. If you did enjoy this and you have not already, please do subscribe because I make videos twice a week about all sorts of kink and BDSM related topics. And if you really want to support what I do, the best you can do this with Patreon. A link to that will be down below. If you do already support me there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you all next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.